Welcome to our deep dive into Open When by Julie Smith.
Oh, yeah, I've heard good things about this one.
Yeah, it's all about like giving you the tools to handle whatever life throws at you,
Hmm.
emotionally speaking.
Cool.
It's kind of like having a personalized emotional first aid kit, I guess you could say.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, so instead of, just reading it cover to cover,
Right.
you can actually just like open up the chapter that speaks to what you're feeling in the moment.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not like a traditional self-help book.
Not really, no.
Yeah,
It's more like having a wise friend you can turn to for advice exactly when you need it.
I like that.
And what's great is that instead of just, giving you those like vague platitudes,
Yeah.
like, ooh,
Oh, no.
just think positive or whatever.
Yeah, we've all heard those.
Exactly. Julie Smith actually gives you like practical, actionable techniques
Okay.
to deal with pretty much everything.
Wow. So, like, what kind of stuff are we talking about?
Like everything from everyday stress
Yeah.
to heavier stuff like, navigating sadness or even like forgiveness,
Hmm.
which can be really hard.
Yeah, for sure. And is it all like evidence-based and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
all grounded in science, which I appreciate.
Oh, good. I like that.
So should we dive in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool. So like right off the bat in the very first chapter, Julie tackles anxiety head on.
Okay, makes sense. I feel like that's something a lot of people struggle with.
Totally. And you know how anxiety can make you feel like you're just like spiraling out of control?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, she introduces this technique called 5-4-3-2-1 grounding.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one.
So it's all about using your senses to bring you back to the present moment.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's like a mindfulness thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so important because like when you're anxious, your mind is often racing,
Right.
focusing on like worst case scenarios or things you can't control.
Oh, yeah, you get stuck in those thought loops.
Totally. And this grounding technique, like it kind of forces you to focus on your immediate surroundings, which helps interrupt that like anxious thought pattern.
So it's like hitting the reset button on your brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so simple, but like surprisingly effective.
So how does it work?
It's like 5 things you can see,
Okay.
4 things you can touch, 3 you can hear,
Okay.
2 you can smell, and 1 you can taste.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard of that before.
It's a great way to like regain a sense of control when anxiety hits.
I'm gonna have to try that one.
You should.
Mm.
And it's not just about like calming down in the moment.
Yeah.
Julie also emphasizes the importance of like long-term self-care for managing anxiety.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just a quick fix.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about building those healthy habits.
Yeah. And what kind of self-care stuff does she recommend?
Well, she doesn't just like throw out generic advice like get more sleep or,
Yeah, we've all heard that one.
exactly.
Yeah.
She gets specific, like she talks about things like limiting screen time before bed.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm definitely guilty of that.
Me too. It's
It's-
so hard to resist.
Especially with like social media and everything.
Oh my gosh, I know. And she explains how that like blue light from our devices can actually mess with our sleep hormones.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And she also talks about being mindful of caffeine intake.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because too much caffeine can actually exacerbate anxiety.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like understanding how those everyday choices
Right.
impact our mental and emotional state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's like the classic advice of incorporating movement into your day.
Yeah, like exercise and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's a brisk walk, a yoga class, or even just like a little bit of stretching.
Yeah, that's always good.
And what I love is that she explains the science behind it.
Oh, cool.
Like, exercise doesn't just help you physically, but it also releases endorphins,
Right,
which have mood-boosting effects.
right.
So it's like a win-win when it comes to managing anxiety.
Yeah, I love that. It's like
Jack-
getting a double benefit.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered anxiety, but now let's move on to stress management, which Julie dives into in chapter 2.
Oh, stress. Okay. I think we can all relate to that one.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think we can all relate to feeling overwhelmed by our like never-ending to-do lists.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's like the age of overwhelm, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And one technique that really stood out to me was the Pomodoro technique.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that one. Have you actually tried it?
I have, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
It's where you work in focused intervals, usually like about 25 minutes,
Okay.
and then you take a short break. And I'll be honest, at first I was a little skeptical,
Yeah, I can see that.
but it really does help you stay on track and avoid that feeling of being constantly like bombarded by tasks.
Interesting. So it's like working with your natural focus cycles.
Exactly. And you'd be surprised how much you can accomplish when you break down your work into those like manageable chunks.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think a lot of us try to do too much at
Oh,
once.
totally.
Yeah.
And those short breaks are like essential for preventing burnout
Okay.
and maintaining focus over longer periods.
I like that. So you're not just like pushing through until you're exhausted.
Exactly. It's about working smarter, not harder.
I love that philosophy.
Me too.
Yeah.
And another really important point that Julie makes in this chapter is about setting boundaries.
Oh, boundaries. Okay, that's a big one.
It is. It's about learning to say no to things that drain your energy
Right.
and protecting your time for the things that truly matter.
That's so important. But I feel like it's something a lot of us struggle with.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know, I do. I'm a bit of a people pleaser.
Yeah, me too. It's hard to say no sometimes.
It is. It can feel really difficult. But, setting boundaries isn't selfish.
Right. It's about taking care of yourself.
Exactly. It's about taking care of your own well-being so you can show up fully in other areas of your life.
I like that. It's like putting on your own oxygen mask first before helping others.
Oh, that's such a good analogy.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it really puts it into perspective.
Okay, so we've covered anxiety and stress.
Mm-hmm.
But what about those times when loneliness creeps in?
Oh, yeah. Loneliness. That's a tough one.
It is. It's something that most of us experience at some point in our lives, right?
Absolutely. And it can feel really isolating.
Totally.
Yeah.
And, it's often stigmatized as like a negative emotion.
Yeah, like there's something wrong with you if you're feeling lonely.
Right. But in chapter 3, Julie actually challenges that conventional view of loneliness.
Oh, that's interesting. So she's not saying it's a bad thing.
Not necessarily.
Mm.
She suggests that it can actually be an opportunity for self-reflection and growth.
Okay, I like that perspective.
So it's like instead of dreading those moments of solitude,
Yeah.
we can actually embrace them as a chance to get to know ourselves better.
So it's like turning it into a positive thing.
Exactly. And, it's a time to explore our interests, maybe even discover hidden passions.
That's cool. Like use that time to really connect with yourself.
Exactly. And she even suggests that online communities can be a great way to connect with like-minded people.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Especially if you're feeling isolated, geographically, or if you have like niche interests.
Exactly. It's about
Yeah.
finding those genuine connections that make you feel seen and understood.
Yeah, that's so important for sure.
And, speaking of emotions,
Yeah.
Julie doesn't shy away from the tough ones.
Oh, good.
In chapter 4, she delves into sadness,
Okay.
which is something we often try to avoid or suppress.
Yeah. It's not a fun emotion to deal with.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
But as Julie points out, avoiding sadness doesn't make it go away.
Right. It's like it just festers.
Totally. In fact, suppressing emotions often just intensifies them.
Oh, that makes sense. So what's the alternative?
Well, it's not just letting those feelings wash over you.
Right.
It's about acknowledging and processing sadness in healthy ways.
Okay. I'm intrigued. What does that look like in practice?
Well, Julie suggests a few different approaches. Like journaling can be a great outlet.
Oh, yeah. I love journaling.
Me too. It's so helpful for expressing those emotions in a safe and private space.
It's like you're getting those thoughts out of your head and onto paper.
Exactly. And it can be so cathartic.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes talking to a trusted friend or therapist
Oh, yeah.
can provide that external perspective and support that we need.
Yeah, it's like having someone hold your hand through those darker moments.
Exactly. And even engaging in creative activities
Oh, yeah.
can be a way to release those pent-up emotions.
Totally. So
Yeah.
it's about finding healthy outlets for those feelings.
Right.
Rather than letting them bottle up inside.
And potentially manifest in unhealthy ways.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about recognizing that sadness, like all emotions, is a natural part of the human experience.
For sure. We all go through it.
Exactly. And it's how we manage and express it that makes all the difference.
I like that perspective.
Me too. And let's be real, in today's fast-paced world,
Yeah.
who hasn't felt completely overwhelmed at some point?
Seriously. It's like we're constantly bombarded with information, deadlines,
This
expectations.
is the age of overwhelm, for sure.
Right. And in chapter 5, Julie tackles this head on.
Okay, so what's your advice?
Break it down.
Okay, that sounds so simple, but it's true. When you're feeling overwhelmed, it's easy to get paralyzed by the sheer amount of things you need to do.
Yeah, you don't even know where to start.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But taking that mountain of tasks and breaking it down into smaller, manageable steps can make it feel so much less daunting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. And she also suggests using organizational tools like planners or apps.
Oh, yeah. I love a good planner.
Me too. I know some people roll their eyes at the idea of yet another app.
Right.
But honestly, having a system for keeping track of everything can be a lifesaver.
It frees up mental space.
Exactly. so you can focus on the task at hand.
Right. Instead of trying to remember everything you need to do.
Totally. And sometimes it's about adjusting our expectations,
Oh, yeah.
letting go of the need for everything to be perfect.
Embrace the good enough.
Exactly. We often set these like impossibly high standards for ourselves,
Right.
which just adds to the feeling of overwhelm.
For sure. So it's about learning to prioritize, delegate,
Yeah.
and most importantly, being kind to ourselves when we inevitably fall short.
Yes.
100%.
And speaking of falling short,
Oh, boy.
let's talk about anger.
Okay.
It's another emotion we often try to suppress or deny.
Yeah, it has a bad reputation.
For sure.
Yeah.
But as Julie points out in chapter 6, anger is a natural human emotion.
Right.
It's not inherently bad.
It's how we express it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about how we manage and express it.
Okay.
And, have you ever noticed how you like hold your breath when you're angry?
Oh, actually, yeah, I think I do.
It's like your body tenses up,
Yeah.
your heart races, and
Mhm.
everything feels like it's going a mile a minute.
That's your fight or flight response.
Exactly. And Julie suggests that like one of the simplest but most effective ways to manage anger is to simply pause and breathe.
Okay, so just take a moment.
Yeah, take a few deep breaths.
Mhm.
It can help you regain a sense of control
Okay.
and interrupt that like reactive impulsive response.
So it's like hitting the pause button on your emotion.
Yeah, exactly. And it gives you a chance to like step back from the situation
Right.
and choose a more thoughtful response.
That makes sense.
And she also suggests using exercise to release that pent-up energy.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely see how that would help.
I can vouch for that. A good run or a kickboxing class can work wonders for diffusing anger.
It's like channeling that energy in a positive way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's journaling, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
It's a great way to process those feelings.
Right.
Explore the root of your anger
Okay.
and gain a deeper understanding of what triggers those intense emotions.
So it's all about self-awareness.
Exactly. The more we understand our own triggers and patterns,
Right.
the better equipped we are to manage our emotions effectively.
That makes a lot of sense.
We've covered anxiety, stress, loneliness, sadness, overwhelm, and anger.
Wow, that's quite a range of emotions.
It feels like we've run the gamut of human emotions at this point.
We're getting good work out here.
Right. But what about those times when you just feel stuck in a rut?
Oh, yeah, stuck. Like lacking motivation or direction.
Exactly. Julie addresses this in chapter 7.
Okay, I'm curious to hear what she has to say about that.
Well, it's a feeling we all experience at some point, right?
Oh, absolutely. Whether it's in our careers, our relationships, or even just like our daily lives.
Totally. And it
Mhm.
can be incredibly frustrating and demotivating.
Yeah, you feel like you're just spinning your wheels.
Exactly. And Julie's advice is to start by taking small steps.
Okay.
It's easy to get paralyzed by like the enormity of a goal or a challenge.
Yeah, you get overwhelmed by the big picture.
Totally. It's like staring up at a mountain and feeling completely overwhelmed by the climb ahead.
Right. And you're like, I'll never make it.
Exactly. But if you break down that climb into smaller, manageable steps,
Yeah.
suddenly it feels much less daunting.
Okay, that's a good strategy.
And she also suggests trying new things, even if they scare us a little.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, to kind of like shake things up and get that momentum going again.
So like get outside your comfort zone.
Exactly. Because sometimes routine can be a rut in disguise.
True, very true.
And stepping outside our comfort zones, embracing new experiences, can spark creativity, ignite passion, and open up new possibilities.
Wow, it's like hitting the refresh button on your life.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really can be like a reset.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. And, sometimes feeling stuck is a sign that we need to like reevaluate our goals
Oh, okay.
and make sure they're still aligned with our values and passions.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like taking a step back and asking yourself, am I on the right path?
Exactly. And sometimes the answer might be to make a course correction.
Right. Or even if you are on the right path, there will inevitably be obstacles and setbacks along the way.
Oh, sure.
That's just part of life.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings us to chapter 8, where
Yeah.
Julie tackles the complex and often challenging topic of forgiveness.
Oh, forgiveness. This is a big one.
Yeah,
And I think a lot of us struggle with this, especially when someone has hurt you deeply.
absolutely. And, especially if the other person hasn't even acknowledged the pain they caused.
Oh, yeah, that makes it even harder.
It really does. But, forgiveness isn't about condoning the other person's actions.
Yeah.
It's not about saying what they did was okay.
Right.
It's about releasing the emotional burden that you're carrying.
There's more about letting go of the anger and resentment
Yeah,
for your own sake rather than for the other person's benefit.
precisely. And, Julie emphasizes that forgiveness is a process,
Okay.
not a switch you just flip on and off.
Right.
It takes time and effort.
So how do you actually go about forgiving someone, especially if you're still feeling hurt and angry?
Well, Julie outlines a few steps.
Okay.
First, it's important to acknowledge the pain that was caused. You
Yeah.
can't just sweep it under the rug and pretend it didn't happen.
You have to validate your own feelings first.
Right. And then she suggests trying to understand the other person's perspective,
Yeah.
even if you don't agree with their actions.
I can imagine that's really difficult, though,
It can be.
especially if you feel like the other person was completely in the wrong.
Totally. But sometimes putting yourself in their shoes,
Yeah.
even for a moment, can help you see the situation in a new light.
Okay.
It doesn't excuse their behavior,
Yeah.
but it might help you understand the motivations behind it.
Okay, that's an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah. And then ultimately it comes down to making a conscious choice to let go of that resentment.
And that's the hard part.
It can be. And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean you have to forget what happened or condone the other person's behavior.
Okay.
It simply means choosing to release yourself from the emotional burden of carrying that anger and resentment.
So true. And, forgiveness isn't just about forgiving others. It's also about forgiving ourselves.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
We can be so hard on ourselves,
Hmm.
replaying past mistakes and beating ourselves up over things we can't change.
Totally. We're often our own worst critics.
For sure. And
Yeah.
self-forgiveness is so important, and I think it's often overlooked.
Definitely. We need to extend the same compassion and grace to ourselves that we would offer to a loved one.
Yeah,
We're all human. We all make mistakes, and we're all worthy of forgiveness.
that's a powerful message. So we've talked about dealing with those difficult emotions, like sadness, anger, resentment.
Yeah.
But what about those times when we're facing challenges and need a boost of hope?
Oh, hope. That's a good one.
Right, that's where Chapter 9 comes in.
Okay, cool.
And it's fascinating how Julie approaches hope. It's not just a passive feeling you wait for.
Oh, okay.
It's something you actively cultivate.
I like that.
Go.
So how do you go about cultivating hope, especially when things feel bleak?
Well, she highlights the power of positive thinking.
Okay.
And before you roll your eyes, it's not about pretending everything is sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
It's about choosing to focus on the possibilities,
Yeah.
however small, rather than dwelling on the negative.
So shifting your perspective.
Exactly. It's like that saying, choose to see the glass half full rather than half empty.
I love that.
Right. And it's also about celebrating those small victories.
Okay.
Even if they seem insignificant in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah,
those small wins can build momentum and give you the energy to keep going.
that makes sense.
And let's not forget the power of gratitude.
Oh, yeah. Gratitude's huge.
Even when things are tough, there's always something to be grateful for.
Right.
Whether it's your health, your loved ones, or even just the simple fact that you woke up this morning.
Gratitude is such a powerful antidote to negativity and despair.
Totally. It shifts your focus from what you lack to what you have,
Yeah.
which can instantly boost your mood and sense of hope.
Love it.
And then, of course, there are times when we feel confused or uncertain.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Life can throw us curveballs,
Absolutely.
and sometimes we just don't know which way to turn.
And that's when that feeling of overwhelm can really kick in.
Oh, totally. Julie addresses this in Chapter 10.
Okay, good. I'm glad she talks about this.
I think we've all been there at some point,
Yeah.
that feeling of being lost in a fog,
Right.
unsure of what steps to take next.
It's like you've lost your inner compass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what does Julie suggest for navigating those times of confusion?
Well, she emphasizes the importance of slowing down and creating space for reflection.
Makes sense.
It's easy to get caught up in the busyness of life and lose touch with our inner selves.
Yeah, we're always on the go.
Right. So it's about pressing pause.
Right.
And giving ourselves permission to just be without judgment or expectations.
That's so important. Just to be present.
Exactly. And sometimes clarity emerges when we stop trying to force it.
Oh, I love that.
It's like when you're trying to remember something, and the harder you try, the more elusive it becomes.
Oh my gosh, yes. That happens to me all the time.
Right. But then when you relax and let go, it suddenly pops into your mind.
It's like magic.
And sometimes confusion arises when we've strayed from our values or lost touch with what truly matters to us.
Oh, that's such a good point.
Yeah.
It's like we're trying to navigate without a map.
Exactly. So Julie suggests taking some time to reconnect with those core values and passions.
Okay.
What brings you joy? What do you care about deeply? What kind of impact do you want to make on the world?
Those are big questions,
They are, but they're important ones to ask ourselves.
especially when we're feeling lost or directionless.
Exactly. And sometimes the answer to confusion isn't a clear-cut solution,
Right.
but rather a willingness to embrace the unknown.
So it's like saying, I don't have all the answers, and that's okay.
Right.
I'm willing to trust the process and see where it leads.
Exactly. It's about having faith in ourselves and in the journey, even when we can't see the destination clearly.
I love that. And, one of the biggest obstacles to living a fulfilling life, I think, is a lack of self-belief.
Oh, yeah. Self-doubt can be a real killer.
For sure.
Hmm.
In chapter 11, Julie dives into building self-esteem,
Okay.
which is something I think we all struggle with at times.
Oh, absolutely. Self-doubt is a universal human experience.
We all have those inner critics
Yeah, those voices in our heads.
that whisper negative thoughts and undermine our confidence.
They can be so loud sometimes.
They really can. So how do we silence those inner critics and start believing in ourselves?
Well, Julie emphasizes the importance of self-compassion. It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a friend who's struggling.
Oh, that's such a good point.
It's easy to be our own worst critics,
Totally.
but we wouldn't dream of talking to a friend the way we sometimes talk to ourselves.
Right. It's like we need to give ourselves a break.
Exactly. And she also suggests setting achievable goals and celebrating our accomplishments no matter how small they may seem.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging those wins, even if they're just baby steps,
Yeah.
because they build momentum and reinforce a positive self-image.
And she reminds us that body language plays a role.
Oh, interesting.
Like standing tall, making eye contact, and smiling can actually boost our confidence.
So like fake it till you make it.
In a way, yeah. It's about embodying confidence, even if we don't always feel it internally.
Right. Sometimes acting as if can actually help us shift our internal state.
I love that. So we've covered a lot of ground here, from managing difficult emotions
Yeah.
to cultivating hope and building self-esteem.
We've been on quite a journey.
But I think one of the most important aspects of living a fulfilling life is finding inspiration.
Oh, inspiration.
That's a good one.
That's where chapter 12 comes in.
Okay, cool. I'm excited to hear about this.
And, inspiration is that spark that ignites our creativity and passion for life.
Right.
It's what motivates us to pursue our dreams and make a difference in the world.
I love that. And sometimes it feels like inspiration is elusive,
Completely.
Like we're waiting for that lightning bolt to strike.
Exactly. But Julie suggests that inspiration is often closer than we think.
Oh, okay.
It's about being open to new experiences, breaking out of our routines, and seeking inspiration from diverse sources.
So it's not just about waiting for that magical moment of inspiration to strike.
Right.
It's about actively seeking it out.
Exactly. And that can involve anything from spending time in nature
Oh, yeah, love that.
to reading a thought-provoking book
Right?
to having a conversation with someone who inspires you. I like that. And one of the most important things for cultivating inspiration, I think, is maintaining a growth mindset.
Oh, yeah, a growth mindset is so important.
That belief that we can always learn and grow no matter our age or experience.
Exactly. A growth mindset is essential for embracing challenges
Right.
as opportunities for learning rather than seeing them as threats or obstacles.
It's about seeing failure not as a setback, but as a stepping stone on the path to success.
So true. And speaking of success,
Okay.
one of the key ingredients is taking care of ourselves, both physically and emotionally.
Of self-care.
That's where chapter 13 comes in, focusing on the importance of self-care.
Self-care is such a buzzword these days.
It is. It seems like everyone's talking about it,
Yeah.
but it can be hard to know what it actually means in practice.
Yeah, it's more than just bubble baths and face masks.
Right. Although those can be lovely forms of self-care too.
Sure. But it's really about prioritizing our mental, emotional, and physical well-being.
It's about recognizing that we can't pour from an empty cup. We need to take care of ourselves so we can show up fully for others.
And Julie suggests a range of self-care practices, from mindfulness and exercise
Yeah.
to healthy eating and spending time with loved ones.
So it's really about finding what works best for you
Yeah.
and making it a non-negotiable part of your routine.
I like that. Make it a priority.
And one of those powerful forms of self-care, I think, is cultivating gratitude.
Oh, yeah. Gratitude is huge.
That's the focus of chapter 14.
Gratitude has become a bit of a trendy topic lately.
It has.
But there's a reason for that. It's not just about feeling good.
Right.
Gratitude actually has a positive impact on our brains and bodies.
Wow.
It can reduce stress, improve sleep, and even boost our immune system.
So how do we cultivate gratitude in our daily lives?
Well, Julie suggests developing a gratitude practice.
Okay.
Whether it's keeping a gratitude journal, writing thank you notes, or simply taking a few moments each day to reflect on what you're grateful for.
I've heard that even just writing down 3 things you're grateful for each day can make a difference.
It really can. It's about training our minds to focus on the positive rather than dwelling on the negative.
Right.
And it's also about expressing our gratitude to others.
That's a good point. Taking the time to acknowledge and appreciate the people in our lives can strengthen those relationships
Yeah,
and create a ripple effect of positivity.
I love that. And finally, we come to chapter 15,
Okay.
where Julie reminds us to savor those moments of happiness.
Oh, that's so important.
It's about truly appreciating the good times, both big and small.
Because happiness is often fleeting.
It is.
So it's important to pause and soak it in when we experience it.
It's about being present in those moments of joy and allowing ourselves to fully feel those positive emotions.
Yeah.
And it's about creating memories that we can revisit later when we need a boost.
It's like building a mental photo album of happy moments that we can flip through when we're feeling down.
Exactly. And those happy memories can serve as a powerful reminder
Yeah.
that even when things are tough, we've experienced joy before and we can experience it again.
I love that.
It's a beacon of hope.
It's a reminder that we're capable of experiencing joy even in the midst of life's challenges.
Exactly. It's a testament to our resilience and our capacity for happiness, even in the face of adversity.
And you know what I really appreciate about Julie's approach throughout this book is that she doesn't shy away from the difficult emotions.
Yeah.
She acknowledges that life can be messy and challenging,
Right.
and that's okay.
It's about normalizing the full spectrum of human emotions.
Exactly.
We're not meant to be happy all the time.
Right.
Sadness,
Yeah.
anger, anxiety, confusion, these are all part of the human experience.
And what matters is how we respond to those emotions.
Yeah.
And Julie gives us concrete tools and techniques
Right.
to help us navigate those ups and downs with a little more grace and self-compassion.
It's about empowering ourselves to take control of our emotional well-being.
Exactly.
We're not helpless victims of our emotions.
Right.
We have the power to choose how we respond.
And one thing that really resonated with me was her emphasis on self-awareness.
Oh, yeah. Self-awareness is key.
Paying attention to our emotions, understanding what triggers them,
Right.
and recognizing the patterns in our thinking and behavior.
Self-awareness is the foundation of emotional intelligence.
It is.
It's about becoming more attuned to our inner landscape, recognizing our strengths and weaknesses, and understanding our own unique emotional blueprint.
It's like having a map of our inner world,
Exactly.
so we can navigate it more skillfully.
And once we have that map, we can start to identify the areas where we might need to work.
Yeah.
Whether it's developing healthier coping mechanisms, setting boundaries, or challenging negative thought patterns.
It's about becoming the architects of our own emotional well-being.
We have the power to shape our emotional landscape
Yeah.
and create a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
And what's so great about this book is that it's designed to be used as needed.
Right.
It's not something you read once and put away.
Yeah.
You can revisit these letters whenever you're facing a specific challenge or just need a little emotional tune-up.
It's like having that resource right there when you need it.
Totally. And you know what I appreciate is that she's not saying you have to be happy all the time.
Oh, yeah, she's very realistic about that.
Like life is messy
Uh-huh.
and emotions are going to, ebb and flow.
It's going to happen.
But it's about equipping yourself with like a toolkit
Yeah.
of strategies so you can handle those waves, whatever they may be.
I like that metaphor.
And she even talks about how like avoiding those difficult emotions
Yeah.
can actually backfire.
Oh, yeah, totally.
It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater.
Right.
You can push it down for a while, but eventually
It's going to pop right back up.
it's going to explode.
Exactly.
So it's about learning to ride those waves, not trying to like stop them all together.
And sometimes we need a little help with that.
Oh, for sure.
She makes a point of emphasizing that seeking support is not a sign of weakness.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Reaching out is so important.
Whether it's talking to a trusted family member therapist or joining a support group, connecting with others can make a huge difference.
Yeah, and even if you don't have like a strong support system in your personal life,
Right.
there are so many online communities and resources available now.
Yeah, that's true.
It's amazing how technology can foster that sense of belonging and connection, even from a distance.
It really can.
So we've been talking about all these different techniques and strategies.
Yeah.
One thing that keeps coming back to me is that it's not about finding a one-size-fits-all solution.
Oh, totally agree. Open when is really a jumping off point. It's
Yeah.
about giving you a taste of different approaches, and then you can kind of explore what resonates with you and build your own personalized emotional toolkit.
It's like a buffet of emotional well-being strategies.
I love that.
You get to sample different things and see what works best for you.
Find what you like.
And just like any skill, managing our emotions takes practice.
Yeah.
The more we use these tools and techniques, the more adept we become at navigating those ups and downs of life.
Makes sense. It's like anything else. You got to work at it.
Exactly. And it's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
There will be setbacks, there will be
Well, in
challenges,
life,
but the key is to keep learning, keep growing,
keep practicing.
and keep practicing those emotional self-care skills.
Agree more.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Open When
Mm-hmm.
by Julie Smith,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your final takeaway for our listener. What's the one thing you hope they'll remember from our conversation?
That's a good question. I think the biggest takeaway is that you have the power to choose how you respond to life's challenges. You're not at the mercy of your emotions.
You have agency.
Exactly. You have the tools and resources to navigate them skillfully and create a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, it was my pleasure. And remember, you have the power to create the life you want, one emotion at a time. Until next time, happy reading.